When the war in Ukraine began, everything I knew about life changed in an instant. One day, I was living normally, working, going out with friends, planning my future. And the next day, the sound of sirens, bombs, and gunfire filled the air. The streets were no longer safe. People ran to shelters, families were separated in seconds, and my home, my city, my country became a battlefield. I had a choice: stay and risk losing everything, or escape and try to survive with nothing but hope in my pocket. I chose to leave. But leaving was not easy. Trains were overflowing with people, mothers clutching their children, old men carrying what little they could, families saying goodbye, not knowing if they would ever see each other again. I boarded a crowded train with no real plan, only the thought that I had to survive. I had no idea where I was going. All I knew is that I had to get out. Every hour felt like a lifetime. Every sound of explosions in the distance reminded me that I was running away from death after days of uncertainty. I found myself searching for a place to go, a place where I could start over and rebuild, and strangely enough, the answer came from a place I'd never thought of before: the Philippines. At first, it sounded impossible. The Philippines was so far away, a tropical country I only knew from photos of beaches and islands. But I discovered that it was a place where people were welcoming, where life was simpler, and where maybe, just maybe, I could find peace. So I made the decision to go. It was terrifying. I had very little money, no connections, and no clear idea of what I would face. I stepped onto that plane with fear in my heart, but also hope. When I landed in Manila, the air was hot and humid, the streets were busy, noisy, and full of life. It was nothing like the silence of war zones back home here. There were children laughing, people selling food on the streets, music playing from every corner, and suddenly I felt alive again. But the reality quickly hit me. I had no money, no job, no plan. At first, I stayed in the cheapest places I could find: small guest houses, crowded hostels. Sometimes I slept in airports or bus stations. Ate the cheapest street food, rice with fish or noodles for a few pesos. I walked everywhere because I could not afford transportation. I was surviving on almost nothing. But then something unexpected happened. The kindness of strangers in Ukraine. The war taught me fear and suspicion, but in the Philippines, people treated me like family, even though I was a foreigner with nothing. They offered me meals, shared their homes, and asked about my story. One family invited me to stay for free until I got back on my feet. Neighbors gave me food, vendors gave me discounts when they realized I had very little. It shocked me because in war, people think only about survival. But here, people thought about helping others. And that is what saved me slowly. I found ways to make a little money. I started teaching English online, using just my phone and Wi-Fi from coffee shops. Sometimes I helped tourists who needed translations or guided them around places I knew. I learned to stretch every peso. I learned to live simply. I realized I did not need much to survive in this country, and slowly, I began to build a new life. I traveled to places I never imagined: Palawan, with its crystal waters; Cebu, with its busy streets and kind people; Davao, where life was calm and safe. And every time I arrived in a new city, people welcomed me as if I belonged for the first time in a long time. I felt human again, but it was not just about surviving. It was about healing. The sound of waves replaced the sound of bombs. The laughter of children replaced the cries of war. The sight of sunsets replaced the sight of smoke and destruction. And little by little, my heart began to heal. I had escaped the war, but I also discovered a truth I never expected. The Philippines taught me about resilience, about hope, about family. Even when you have no blood connection, the sense of community here was stronger than anything I had ever seen back home. People looked out for each other, and somehow they looked out for me too. There were days I cried thinking about my family still in Ukraine. Days I felt guilty for leaving. Days I wondered if I would ever go back. But each time someone in the Philippines showed me kindness, I realized I had been given a second chance at life. And that chance came in the most unexpected place. I learned to celebrate small victories: my first paycheck from online work, my first rented room, my first group of Filipino friends who treated me like a brother. And every little success reminded me that even though I had lost everything, I was slowly gaining something new, something just as valuable. When I compared my life before and after the war, I realized how much I had changed. Before, I thought happiness came from things, from money, from comfort. After surviving war and moving here, I learned happiness comes from people, from peace, from moments that money can never buy, like sitting by the sea, eating simple food, laughing with strangers who became family. Never expected this. I never expected that a country I had never thought of before would save me. Never expected that leaving with nothing would give me more than I ever had. I never expected that surviving war would teach me how to live again today. I live in the Philippines. Not rich, not famous, not powerful, but alive, free, and at peace. The war in Ukraine took everything from me. But the Philippines gave me something back, gave me hope, it gave me love, and it gave me life. This journey taught me that even when you escape the darkest times, even when you lose everything, there's always a chance to start over. There's always a place where the kindness of strangers can become the foundation of your new life. And for me, that place was the Philippines. The country I never expected to call home. But the country that gave me a future.